All right, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get rolling here. I know we've got a couple more people will probably join up as we get started. Welcome. This is our Jira Service Management for ITSM webinar. It's kind of a follow-up or part two to last week's webinar, which is the Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar, which in that webinar we talk more about kind of the fundamental features of Jira Service Management on top of Jira, that core Jira product. In this webinar, it's very focused on making all of these new and updated features of Jira Service Management work for the ITSM process. And so I'm going to go through a lot of information today. This video will probably be up on YouTube shortly, and then kind of moderating and watching the chat, we've got Heather. She's going to be, throwing some links in there periodically, and one of those links is going to be a link to our YouTube channel, where a lot of these videos kind of end up recorded. And so we've got a ton of videos there, a lot of smaller, shorter explanations, as well as full-length webinars. So check that out when you got some time. So today, again, this is Jira Service Management for ITSM. Last week's fundamentals webinar, we talk about kind of that additional project type. We talk about, how agents cost more than like a Jira software user, but you get to add free customers. So there's some advantages there. We talked about that customizable customer portal, where we can customize our request types, all of that jazz. We talked about, the prioritization and queues, the addition of SLAs above the Jira software product, as well as the Confluence knowledge base and utilizing automation. And today we're going to kind of take all those things and take them kind of one step further into an ITSM process. We're going to be talking about, four main products: Insight, which is that asset and configuration management database. This is going to be available with your JSM Cloud Premium tier or as a product on Data Center as well. And then also, I think, with JSM Cloud Enterprise as well. Opsgenie, which is our alerting kind of incident management tool. Now, one cool thing here from the previous ITSM webinars we've done is that there are a lot of changes to what functionality lives in the Opsgenie product versus in the Jira Service Management product. And so we're going to touch on that a lot today about some of those new changes. So instead of it being alert and incident management, Opsgenie is really just alert management, and then some team and on-call stuff, which we'll look at. And this is also comes with Jira Service Management Cloud Premium, as well as a separate product on Data Center. Then there's automation for Jira, which is now native on both Jira Service Management Cloud and on Data Center, Jira Service Management Data Center. And this is going to be our automation tool that's running in the background for project automation that we can use to do make Jira work for us in all kinds of cool ways. And then lastly is Statuspage, which is kind of our stakeholder communication tool that allows us to have just kind of a public site, a status dot whatever. And a good example of that is status.atlassian.com, where we, those recent outages, you could track the progress on those outages at that site, which is pretty neat. So this is a separate product, but we do have it hooked up, and we'll touch on it and take a look at it later on. Okay. So we're going to go through today three main demos. The first is a service management demo, and this is going to link into that asset management database called Insight. And so we'll use that to kind of demonstrate what it can look like to have a service management process. And then we're going to have an incident management demo, which is going to, link to our incident management workflows, as well as some automation. And then it's also going to link to both Statuspage and Opsgenie. And then lastly, we're going to have a change enablement demo, where we're going to talk about standard change with we'll talk about a manual change creation. We'll talk about automatic standard change automation, and then we'll talk about a automatic normal change with a gated deployment. And so we'll run through those three scenarios as well at the end. Okay, so before we get started on kind of the good stuff, I want to touch on a little bit about us as a company. So Expium is a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. And so what that means is we support Atlassian in customer configurations. We're kind of that customer service org for them as far as consulting and configuration advice and things like that. And so we kind of have three core avenues of business. One is training. like these webinars, we do a lot of intensive training that includes, multi-day boot camps, that includes a lot of webinars, a lot of smaller training videos on YouTube, which again, we talked about earlier. And so training is a really big part of our business because we find that folks tend to like a tool more if they know how to use it. And so we lean pretty heavily into that training core competency, and it's really important to us to teach people how to use the tool and not just get it set up for folks. Second is our consulting services. And so in this case, that includes everything from, helping folks clean up an existing instance to full ground up implementations to migrations from other products. We've had a lot of ServiceNow migrations to Jira Service Management. That's kind of one of our biggest lines of contracts right now. But also we do licensing. And so there's a no cost licensing service that we provide because we're an Atlassian solutions partner that can include discounts. It can include co-terming licenses that maybe you're on different terms with two different licenses. You want to get them all in the same place. We can help with that. And again, that's a no cost service. We just do that because we're a partner, and we have kind of that line to Atlassian, which is nice. And then lastly, we do have a parent company called Oasis Digital Solutions, and we do custom development, custom software development. So that parent company builds custom enterprise software, and we leverage that knowledge and capability to build custom front ends, custom portals that live in front of like the JSM portal, and then to connect to external other products with integrations, API integrations, things like that. And so if you guys have other products, one of the most common scenarios we have is folks want to spin up on Jira, but they still have teams living over in ServiceNow or some other product, and they want to connect the two. And so we spend a lot of time helping folks navigate the problems and finding solutions to making all that work for them. So yeah, so that's a little bit about us. All right, so the first thing we're going to jump into is the service management demo, the asset and service management demo. And so this demo we're going to start out here in the IT service desk portal. This is where we're going to have all of our request types we talked about last week on the fundamentals webinar. And we're going to walk through a process here that, and actually, I'm going to run through that slide real quick. So in this case, we have the who, right, which is going to be our service teams, and IT is going to be one of those service teams, right? The challenge we get a lot with folks coming from other products or just in general, their current processes are they have trouble tracking assets. We've got, Brian talks about this, folks that every month or 6 months have to fill out an asset spreadsheet that gets emailed out to everybody, right? Not sustainable, not accurate, and if you ever get audited, can be a nightmare, right? And so one of the things we'll talk about is how to track assets and how Insight can make that a lot easier. And then tracking, the services relating to those assets. So in this case, we're going to have a service management process that is going to automatically communicate with our asset management database, pull those assets, link them to users, all of those things. And so the solution here is to set up a asset database that's easy to maintain, which is Insight, our object management tool, and then integrate it with the ticketing system. In this case, there's a seamless integration between Insight and Jira Service Management. So the tools we're going to be looking at in this demo are going to be Jira Service Management, Insight, and then automation for Jira, which is going to be that project automation running in the background, okay? So we'll go ahead and jump in here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come out here to this portal. Now, like we talked about in the fundamentals webinar, you might have a lot of different portals in your help center. So in this case, we've got three common ones: an IT service desk, an HR service desk, and a facilities service desk. Today, we're going to be living in this IT service desk. This is an ITSM webinar, right? So we're going to come in here. One of the first things we're going to see off the bat is, hey, there's a status page link up here that's showing that, hey, there's multiple issues live right now. Well, that doesn't impact my computer, right? Because my computer's broken. That's going to be the scenario we're going to use today. So I've got a laptop, my laptop's broken. So this isn't going to be related to that. So I'm going to come down here to this computer section, and I'm going to request a new laptop. Okay. So I come in here, I'm going to select my reason. In this case, the equipment is damaged. Dropped my laptop. Okay, it's broken. Which model would you like? And this is an Insight asset management field. And so it's looking at the objects that are available to me as the end user to request. So in this case, I'm going to request a MacBook Pro. 13-inch. And I'm not gonna share this with my org because it doesn't matter. It'll automatically do what it needs to do from an approval standpoint. So we're gonna send this in and submit this as the customer. So now we've got this ticket created out here. We can see the details we filled in, the reason, additional details, and what model we're requesting. And you'll notice this requires an approval. And that's important because you don't want folks to just be able to request equipment at will. They need to be approved by their manager, things like that. So we can set that all up automatically. So over here on the right, we'll see the status of the ticket. We've got a few options here. We can cancel our request if we don't need it anymore. We can turn on and off notifications, and we can share it with other users. And this is important for other request types as well. And so that's kind of the extent to the customer side. We also have the ability to see our whole list of requests up here. We can see everything created by us. We can see any approvals waiting for us, and we can see everything shared with our organization, which is kind of neat when you've got multiple organizations being serviced by one portal. Okay, so if I have agent privileges, I can go up here to the breadcrumbs and click this issue key. And so now we're going to put on our agent hat. We're going to switch from the customer role, and we're going to view this as an agent. So the agent view, there's a lot going on here, but once you get used to it, it gets pretty easy to parse through. So first thing is in the center here, we see all the information that we entered as the customer, right? So we see our reason, we see the description, and we see the laptop model that we requested, right? And here we can expand this and we can see all the details available on this particular one. And as an agent, we can see, yes, this is in fact offered. And that offered status is what makes it available out in the portal to the customer, okay? And keep in mind that everything in this demo can be configured out of the box with Jira Service Management Premium. So all of this is using in-the-box tools. There's no add-ons used here in this particular, this webinar that we're doing. All right, so over here on the right, we can see our SLAs ticking away. We can see up here that there is an approval necessary. And down here on the right, we can see this affected equipment field, which this is going to show my current laptop. And if we expand this, we can see that this was automatically changed to damaged. And that's automation for Jira working. So when a ticket got submitted, it went and looked at my user, looked at my user's device, and it said, oh, he said this is damaged. So now we know that this is damaged. And then lastly, we can see that warranty expiration date. Well, in this case, February 2022 already passed. And so this is out of warranty. It's damaged out of warranty, which means, we're going to have to go through that process and find a laptop. Now, one of the cool things you can also do with Insight and asset management is you can set up automation to notify you when somebody's device is going out of warranty or within 30 days of warranty expiration. To trigger a new laptop request automatically. And that's kind of a neat thing we've built out before. And so this is a scenario where it's out of warranty. Now, if you do want to see more detail on a user's device that they submitted here, we can go to this little details button, Insight details button, and we can see, okay, here's my user. And if we double click on a user, we can see all the relationships that they have and that they're tied to. So you can see, okay, I'm in the IT group in this particular demo. I've got a phone, I've got a monitor associated with me, and I've got a laptop, and I'm located in St. Louis, right? So it's pretty neat. So you can see that web of information. And so one of the cool things about this is we can leverage the object management capability to go to IT and be able to identify who my manager is. So in this case, Brian Dar is my manager, right? Well, if we go up here over to the approvers field, you can see Brian Dar was automatically added as the approver on this ticket because he is my manager. And so you can set up automation to go search through Insight, grab the manager, and put it in the approvers field automatically. So there's a lot of cool functionality that's happening there. So next, I want to kind of introduce Insight Asset Management as a tool. And so we're going to jump over into the Insight side. When you go up here and you click on Insight at the top and you go view all object schemas, it's going to take you to this list of object schemas. And so each one of these is fulfilling a different function and can be managed by different people. So at the top, we've got our CMDB. This was generated by a network crawl. And so if we open this up, we'll see that whole list of network assets that were discovered and all the details of those assets here. And all of that is tracked. So you can see there are thousands and thousands of objects. So this is a neat place you can use the discovery tool, the Insight discovery tool, to crawl your network and get all the information. And so it is agentless discovery. The other object schemas and the ones that we're particularly using in this case are, IT employee assets and employees. And so in this case, we're able to see, my users in this employees database under a certain department. You can see my manager there. And so this is a neat way to track your employees, and we see folks with thousands and thousands of employees listed in here with all of the departments. And each of these departments has a manager, right? And so that's how we automated the discovery. So, and then we can see our IT employee assets are held here. We've got a customer relationship management database here. So all of that can be tracked in here really easily and really cleanly. And so it's a great way to manage your objects that are related to your system. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and go to this guy, and we're going to look at some more details about this one by clicking on that Insight ID, and they'll pull up that host name here. And so we can see the status was changed to damage. We can see the automation for Jira made that status change. And then we can go ahead and look for available laptops. And the way we would look for available laptops is by going to our IT employee assets list. And we can see, okay, laptops, we can sort by status, and we can show anything that is currently in stock. And so in this case, we've got, if I can expand the columns here, and I can show the model number. And so this particular user requested a MacBook Pro 13-inch, and looks like we have one in stock magically, for this demo. And so I can navigate to here, and I can complete that ticket by assigning this to that user, taking the damaged one and assigning it to in repair, sending it to a repair shop. All of that can be managed right here from Insight. One thing I do want to touch on is as you guys have questions, go ahead and submit them into that Q&A section. And at the end of the webinar, I'll tackle all of those questions at once. If I try to tackle them now, I'll get lost and lose my way here. So go ahead and put those in Q&A as you think of them, and then I'll tackle all of them in order at the end as we have time. So I try to always leave at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end to tackle all of those questions. Okay. And so that's how we can use Insight to connect to our new laptop request here. And so I'm going to go ahead and approve this one. You'll see Brian Dars on there. I can add myself as an approver, as I am an admin here. And you can add any other approver if it needs to be happen. Let's say Brian Dar's out of the office. He'll have a backup. You can automatically add the backup as well to the approvals, things like that. And then they'll get that approval via email. And so that's one of the cool things as well. You can approve directly from the email. So let's say the manager's on the go. He sees that email come in. He can click the approve button right there, and it'll approve that ticket. So I can click approve. It'll move this thing forward into the ticket. Now it's waiting for support. And so now the support team will take on this ticket and fulfill that request. Okay, so that's kind of that service management flow. It's a pretty standard one, but it's neat to have that connected with Insight Asset Management. Okay, so some other ideas kind of for automation. Oftentimes you've got you can use that automation to update the status of an object. Well, a lot of times we track services as objects, and so if you have incidents come in, and this is something we'll talk about later on, you could automatically change the status of a service. You can auto route Jira issues to different people or different queues based on what objects or what equipment is selected or objects are selected. And then, like I talked about earlier, you can automatically generate a ticket if that warranty expiration date is approaching. And that's something we do a lot, and kind of that asset depreciation or deprecation, I should say, automation. Okay, very cool. All right, so that's kind of, that covers the service management side of things and linking to kind of that asset database. So if you have any questions, feel free to please submit those in the Q&A side. The next demo we're going to be talking about is that incident management functionality, and this is probably the most important demo. I would say this is the one that is most important to keep to be efficient with incident management. This one is definitely going to be an IT operations team for the most part of some sort. Maybe it's not called that, but that's going to be their function. The challenge we have with incidents a lot of times is quick response and then quick resolution, right? I mean, those are the two things that often are a challenge. And then lastly, follow-up, ensuring that we track all the activity on a postmortem, and we follow up with all the stakeholders to make sure that everything is in fact functioning correctly. And so our solution for this is using essentially managed, alerting tool like Opsgenie in this case that can take all of your services and pull in alerts from all those services into one place. We want to be connected to a deployment process of a repository and our build pipelines and everything to be tracking with our project, and have all of those connected to service relationships like websites, payroll, things like that. And then we want to have an instant command center and really good built-in communication tools. And so the tools we're going to be talking about today are going to be your Jira Service Management tool. This is going to be the premium tool. Opsgenie, which is our alerting tool. Statuspage, which is going to be our communication, our stakeholder communication tool. And then Confluence, which is going to be where we're going to track our documentation for our incident resolution and our postmortem. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here to the asset management side. So in this case, we're going to go back out here to the portal to start. We're going to go ahead and submit an incident. Now, if I'm coming in here, you're going to see right here at the top, I can see the status update that there's multiple issues active. Now, we all know that people will see that and they'll go ahead and submit a ticket anyway. So we're going to go ahead and do that process. We're going to go ahead and submit we're going to report a system problem in this case. And our system problem is going to be the website is down. So in this case, we're going to say website not working, can't see anything. Okay, website's down. Affected services, website. This is a list of all of our services. And then down here, we're going to say, okay, some urgency. This is critical. If the website's down, that's a big deal. And then we're going to say extensive, widespread. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and submit this ticket. So once I've submitted this ticket, that's an incident. It's going to go into the backend. So we're going to jump into our incident queue. Okay. Go ahead and jump over here. So I'm going to refresh my open incident queue, and you're going to see, okay, we got 3 incidents here. I've been busy this morning, but we're going to assume these first 2 incidents were submitted by other people, right? And so one of the cool things we can do here off the gate is, okay, we've got 3 duplicate tickets. So as an agent, I can go ahead and tie these together. And so that's going to be really important to not be trying to work the same incident on multiple tickets. And so I'm going to go ahead and come in here and I'm going to grab these 2. And I'm going to go to this link issue function. And I'm going to say is caused by. So these 2 are caused by ITSD 271. ITSD 271. We're going to see that right here. Website not working, right? So we're going to say all of these are linked together. Okay. And so that ITSD 271 is what we're going to kind of treat as not really a parent ticket, because there's not a hierarchy here. It's more just going to be, that's going to be our primary ticket. It's going to be our main ticket. So let's go ahead and open ITSD 271. Website not working. So as the agent, I'm going to tie those together and then I'm going to open it up. And there's a lot of information right here on this page. And this is where we're going to talk about some of the things that have just recently changed with Opsgenie. So there used to be a lot of functionality where from here, we would navigate over to Opsgenie to tackle a lot of this information. Atlassian has brought a lot of functionality over here into the ticketing system directly. So we're going to talk through a few things here. One of the first things we're going to see is the affected service that was selected. And you're going to see this little yellow triangle. This is a little warning sign. When we click on that, we can see at a glance that there are 3 incidents, active open incidents related to this service. So if we weren't aware of that as an agent, we would see that here and we'd have that indicator of, hey, something's wrong. There's something going on with this website. Okay, so we've got 3 incidents that were created that are linked to the website. Something is wrong, right? So we're going to tackle that here. We can expand this and we can see those incidents here. And then we can also see, this is a tier 1 service. This is a big deal for the website to be down. And just like the asset management demo earlier, we can pop open this full service details button and see a little bit more information. We can see the service relationships that the website relates to, and we can check and see if there's problems with any one of those. And we can see all of the linked issues that may be linked to the website currently, which we don't have any. And so here we've got, if you scroll down here, we can see our linked issues we talked about. We linked these 2 under the caused by link. Now, over here on the right, as we scroll down, we're going to see some of those features that used to be in Opsgenie that got brought over. So first thing we're going to see is any linked alerts. that came out. So maybe, and we'll touch on that in a second. That's going to take us over to the Opsgenie side. We can see we can start a conference call here. This is going to be our command center conference call. We can start a chat channel, and this will allow us to have live communication throughout the resolution of this incident. We can manage our stakeholders and our responders. And so in this case, we've got the IT ops team is added as a responder. They're the ones responsible for the website. And then we've got this major incident toggle. In this case, this is a major incident. Now, it used to be that there was a little button up here that would create a major incident. Now they've got the toggle on an incident itself. So you can actually convert an existing incident to a major incident. And so now it's going to keep all that incident management right here in the ticketing system. So we're going to go ahead and take this one. And yes, it is a major incident. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on. So now you're going to see this big red major incident button up here. And it's going to show up in this major incident queue on the left. And so now we can manage that here. And so that's going to change the way that this incident gets managed. And so now everybody's going to kind of swarm this major incident ticket. Okay. All right, so that's going to touch on just a lot of stuff's been brought over here. Now, it used to be from here, we would shift over to Opsgenie and we would look at the Opsgenie incident side. However, they've brought some more functionality over here, including the investigation functionality. So it used to be you go to Opsgenie to see to go through your investigation process. So now we're going to do all that on the ticket. So we go up to this investigation button, and this is going to be kind of where we start. And you're going to see this little help text. Hopefully it's showing for the screen share. Investigate deployments and add them as potential causes to the incident. So this is linked to a deployment tool. So we're going to click investigation and we're going to see, hey, there was a deployment here. It was a successful deployment, so it did go into production. And this is going to give us a great place to start. We're going to select this as a potential cause. This is a recent deployment that happened. We're going to identify this as a potential cause, okay? And click add potential causes. So now we've identified that one as a potential cause. It's going to show up here, and we can actually go in here and link out to this deployment. And we can check that out. So deployment 94, and so we can view that, we can investigate that, and take that on at will. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the Opsgenie side. So the question may come up, okay, what is Opsgenie good for now then? Why do we still need it? So if I scroll down here, I can see this major incident and I can switch over to Opsgenie here, or I can go to this Opsgenie incidents link, and it's going to take me over to the Opsgenie side. So Opsgenie is going to be critical for our alerting. And so we're going to start out looking at alerts on the Opsgenie side. Once this loads up here, we're going to start in this alerts menu up here. And so this is where Opsgenie really becomes important. You can see the incident that we raised earlier. It's a priority 4, but you can also see the 2 incidents that were raised earlier by other folks that our website's down. These have already been identified and escalated to priority 2. But before all of this happened, before all these manual incidents were submitted, there was a heartbeat alert from the website that was not acknowledged. It hasn't been acknowledged yet. And in real life, this heartbeat website not responding would get acknowledged immediately and escalated up through the queue. And we'll talk about escalation policies, but this happened first. We're going to go ahead and acknowledge this. This heartbeat incident already happened. And so this came in, we can see, okay, this is priority 2 because it's this is a tier 1 service. So it's high priority. We can see when it was updated. We can see the activity log on this one. We can see when alerts were sent out. We can see when it was escalated. We can see that folks have, turned off their notifications completely. And then we can see the different responder states. We can see, okay, at 5:48 p.m. last night, it got escalated. We can see that it got sent to Jason Kidner. It got received. Brian received it. We can see that I have now seen it. We can see all of those responder states for the IT ops team. Okay, so this is going to be really important to keep in mind that there's alerting and then there's incident management. And so this is our alert. This is our notification. Hey, something is wrong, and we can tackle things right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this this heartbeat alert, and this is going to trigger that incident process. So if this is connected to our incident over here on the ticketing side, and we can see who should have tackled this. So now we're going to talk about Opsgenie kind of as a tool and what it's going to be useful for now. So we can see that Atlassian is now phasing out and we go over to incidents here, you can see there was not an incident automatically created like there used to be. So it used to be when you created a major incident in Jira, it would create an incident over an Opsgenie. That's no longer the case because Atlassian is moving all of that incident management capability and functionality to the ticketing tool instead of being an Opsgenie. And so this is all shifting. So eventually we may see, some of this incident menu starting to go away. But let's say we want to manage it here in Opsgenie because of all of its connections to the teams and the responders. We can go ahead and create an incident over here to track along with it if we wanted to. In this case, we're not going to for this demo. What is important here, though, is our alerts and our notification process. So when this incident happened, I'm on the IT Ops team. I got an email. I got a message, a notification, push notifications, things like that. The way we set that up is going to be on this Teams menu, and specifically this, on-call schedule here. So we'll start with the Teams menu. So in this team, I'm in the IT Ops team. So we're going to take a look at this team that's set up. First thing we're going to see is our routing rules. And those routing rules are going to be, we're going to be able to apply them to specific alerts. So in this case, if the priority is greater than P3, that means anything that's P1 or P2, then route this through the IT Ops escalation policy. Otherwise, route it based on the IT Ops schedule, okay? So our escalation policies here are going to be really important. At the 0-minute time for the escalation policy, if it's P1 or P2, then whoever is on call for the IT Ops schedule is going to get notified. After 5 minutes, our escalation policy is going to come into play. The next user for the IT Ops schedule, whoever's next on the on-call list, is going to get notified. And then after 10 minutes, if still it has not been acknowledged, all the members of the IT Ops team are going to be notified. It's going to fire off a push notification and emails, okay? So this is really important to make sure that something that's P1 or P2, priority 1, priority 2 incidents or alerts get acknowledged and looked into and investigated, right? And if something is a big deal, an incident gets created and boom, we're off to the races. The next thing we're going to talk about on this team menu is the on-call schedule. And so this is where we can set up on-call schedule. So in this case, we're alternating days on on-call. We've got a night shift on on-call that alternates week by week. And then we've got a weekend on-call person. So it looks like right now at this moment, Brian is the one that's on call. So when that incident got created that we just created earlier, he got notified first. And if we escalated that priority to P1, P2, it would follow the escalation process, okay? And then the next person on call is going to be him as well. But then after 10 minutes, it's going to notify the entire team, just in case there's a redundancy like this, okay? And that's why we make sure those are set up. We can also add overrides. So let's say, tomorrow I know that Brian has called off. We'll add an override to add somebody else to that night shift. And then our final schedule would be the actual real life schedule. And so if I add myself to take over Brian's spot here, that'll change the final schedule, okay? So there's some cool stuff there. And we can view this as either a timeline or we can view this as a calendar view. If it's timeline view, we can say, okay, we want to see out a month. So we can kind of expand our view here, especially depending on when our schedule repeats and loops. And we can add additional schedules to this team for different on-call services. So some cool functionality here. I encourage you guys to look into this, investigate this. I want to talk about a couple other things we can set up here on the Opsgenie side. We can also set up auto integration. So in this case, we've got a status page integration. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So status page is our communication, our stakeholder communication function. And so when this incident happens, we have the ability to come out here to status page and see all of our active incidents, and we can create an incident out here that's going to be visible to our stakeholders. So in this case, the website is down, right? Website is down. So we're going to create an incident, and we're going to say we are in the investigating status. We're going to say looking into potential causes, and obviously you'll have some language you probably are going to copy and paste into here. And we're going to say sit tight. The affected components are going to be the website. Right now, the website is, we're going to say it's a major outage. We can send notifications or not send notifications. Usually we would send those notifications. In this case, we're going to uncheck that box since this is a demo. And now we've got an active incident that we are investigating. We can apply and set up templates. And and we can, send those out. And then we can also easily send out updates. So let's say, we talked about how out here on the investigation side, we identified a potential cause on that deployment. From the status page, we can go ahead and say, okay, we have identified the problem. And so the fix is being implemented. We're still in a major outage. Have identified the cause. A fix is in progress. All right, great. We can send that update out now. And it's just a great way to view that. And so from this side, we can jump out to our actual status page, the Coffee Co status page, and we can see out here, this is what the stakeholders will see on our status page. And this is coffeeco.status page. And we can see, okay, website is down. We can see we are investigating, looking for potential causes. As of 1636, we have identified the cause, fix is in progress. Okay, and we can, as a stakeholder, we can subscribe to this particular incident, or we can subscribe to all updates, everything that happens on our status page. This is a great way to communicate this information out to your stakeholders, and they have kind of a one-stop shop to see all of the information related to that incident. Okay, so that's going to be kind of our status page integration, and this is going to get reflected out here in the portal. So if we go out to our IT service desk, when somebody comes in here, they're going to see the status update. Hey, we were experiencing multiple issues right now. So that'll help with ticket deflection, which is awesome. So now we're going to go to our incident. We're going to say, okay, we've identified it. Let's say we roll back that deployment, or we fix whatever the problem may have been. And so now we can say, okay, this major incident has been resolved. Obviously, there will be a lot more communication in real life, but in this case, we're going to go ahead and bring this to, we're investigating it. I'm going to assign this to myself. And let's say we went ahead and we got this thing closed out. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, this is resolved. This problem has been resolved. We can set up automation to automatically resolve the other incidents. In this case, we have it set up to where we're going to kind of automatically come in here and we're going to resolve these other child tickets. Great. We can do that right from this menu, which is fantastic. We can resolve all of our child tickets. So now that these have all been resolved, we've identified our cause, things like that. We can go out to our status page incident and we can say, okay, we're going to move this to monitoring. We can say a fix has been implemented. And we can move this to operational and go ahead and hit update. Now, we're not going to move this to resolved immediately. We're going to say, okay, we're monitoring the fix. This thing has been implemented. Now we can go here, we can refresh, and we can say, okay, on this fix has been implemented. We are now in the monitoring phase. Okay. So if we scroll down here, we can also see, on a by day basis, we can see the history. So your customers are going to be able to see the history of the website, and they can see that percentage uptime right here calculated out. And for this last day, they can see, hey, there was a major outage today. It lasted 3 minutes. That's pretty fast. Well done to the team. And then they can see historical uptime on all of our services. So it's pretty cool. And so the last thing I want to show you is once this thing gets, once this issue gets completed, we can go ahead and create a postmortem. And this is going to be important for tracking history on an issue, right? And so this thing has been resolved, it's been completed and everything. And so we can go into Confluence then, and we can create a postmortem report. We can do this automatically and generate this through Opsgenie, or we can do it manually and fill out the information and link it back to our ticket. So in this case, we have the incident of website is down. In this case, it was the store that was down. We can see who owns it. This particular ticket, we can see the priority. This was P1, critical. The incident lasted 40 minutes and 37 seconds. And we can see the start and end dates. We can see who responded to it. Specifically, Vicky and Brian responded to this particular incident postmortem that this postmortem is from. We can scroll down here and we can see the summary, some fields that we need to fill in, things like the lead up, the fault. We can do this probably on like a postmortem meeting and talk through, okay, what happened and why. And then we can also, there's this awesome timeline gadget, Confluence macro that'll pull in the information from that incident into this postmortem report. Okay, so there's a lot of cool automation that happens that's been built out. And so encourage you guys to test this out. And if you guys are interested in looking into this, let us know. We can help you guys configure something like what we have set up here for incident management. Okay. So that's how we can kind of use the alerting tools from Opsgenie and the ticket management from JSM to go through an incident management process. And so again, there's a lot of changes that Atlassian is making here in these menus. That's changing the way we view Opsgenie as a tool and JSM as a tool separately, and then how we can use them together. And so some cool stuff there. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to submit those in through that Q&A section. I've seen some pop in already, so we'll hit those at the end. Okay, so that kind of covers all of our information for our incident management walkthrough and demo. Okay, the last demo we're going to look at here is going to be our change enablement demo. And this one's really cool because what this can enable you to do is reduce the overhead on maintaining your services and your systems, right? And so in this case, the folks involved are going to be our change managers. This is going to be anybody that's in charge of changes to a service, and then your developers who are actually making those changes, physically writing that code and deploying it to your active services. The challenges here are always, the biggest one with change enablement is always managing risk. It's really important to manage risk effectively, because you can look at, okay, risk benefit, as well as, you can quickly address changes that need to be made, whether it be standard changes, normal changes, or emergency changes. So we'll talk about those three scenarios here. Coordinating changes are really important. Communicating the change deployment process across the organization, making sure everybody is up to date, whether it be the change approval board. And then we also want to ease that bureaucratic effort, make it as easy as possible to deploy changes to deliver value to our customers. And that's kind of the end goal, right? Is value delivery. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we can deliver value quickly and efficiently without a lot of overhead. Solution there is going to be automated risk assessment. So whenever a change ticket gets requested or a change gets submitted, we can automatically assess the risk. We're going to want to have ticket creation if a manual change needs to be requested. And then we want to automate, and so we want to automate those three things. So automated risk assessment, automated ticket creation when possible, and automated resolution. And so we'll look at all three of those scenarios. And the tools we're going to use to do that is going to be Jira Service Management, Bitbucket as our repository tool, and then automation for Jira to bridge that whole connection together. Okay. So I'm going to jump over into our change enablement demo here. So the first scenario we're going to talk about is the slowest and the one that we want to avoid as much as possible, which is that manual change request. And so to do that, we're going to go back out to our IT service portal, and we're going to go down here and we're going to request a change. So in this case, it lives in two places. We have applications section where we can request a change, and then service and architecture. We're going to do the applications section. So we're going to come in here, we're going to request a change. On a change request, we've got a lot of information that needs to be submitted. And so in this case, we're going to go ahead and run through. We're going to open a ticket here in the portal, and we're going to say update website maybe. And for our demo, we're going to say, just going to say update. And now we're going to select, whatever our system may be. So in this case, we can update, we'll just keep on with our website theme for now. The change type, well, this is going to be a normal change, which means it's going to require an approval. We can say we've got a moderate impact. Maybe it's a high urgency. We can talk about, what's the change risk here? Is it high, medium? Again, this is the manual process. This is the process that we are going to talk about in a second, how to avoid. But sometimes this is just necessary, right? And so this is going to be an upgrade, change reason. We're going to fill out kind of our implementation plan, our backout plan, our test plan, and then we're going to have our planned start date. When do we need to implement this? When is the change going to start? And then when's the change going to be complete? And then we can choose whether or not to share that with our organization here in the service desk. So I'm going to go ahead and send this ticket in. So this is the manual change process. You'll see that an approval was generated because this is a normal change. You'll see that all the approvers got grabbed here and added here, and one approval is required to get this thing to move through the process. So that's going to be our manual change creation. Again, it's slow, it's not ideal. We can jump over to the agent side and we can view the change from the agent side. We can see, okay, you know, this change got submitted. Here's the service that it's related to. It's the website. We resolved that earlier incident, so we'll now see there's no incidents related to this particular change. We can see our change risk. All of this entered manually, right? Really tedious, really slow. Not the ideal way to go through this process. For change enablement, though, there are some cool tools that we do want to talk about here for this change process. When we jump back to the project, we can see that there are some change features we can leverage to better kind of smooth out our process here. The first is the change calendar. This is a cool place where we can go in and see all of the scheduled changes. We can see this on a couple different views. If we jump out to the month view, we can see all of the scheduled changes and when they're going to be implemented and what date. Okay, so we just got out of a cloud migration. That was a major change, right? We had a lot going on there. We can see we had a payroll system upgrade back on the 17th. On the 14th, we have inventory system, and we can look forward in future months and see any future change that need to be scheduled. Okay, so cool way to see a change calendar. If you don't like this functionality, you can also build out a calendar in Confluence using that Teams calendar add-on. And so this will allow us to build out a custom calendar using all the issue types we want to add. And we can see a lot more detail here. We can see change freezes, no changes, allowed during that time. We can see when we have maintenance scheduled. We can see different maintenance schedules, things like that. It's pretty cool calendar that can be built out, custom made here. All right. And so the last thing that I'll say is you've got the option to create, changes from the portal, but a lot of times we really like to recommend people to create changes using the change template in Confluence. So there's this awesome change template in Confluence. In this case, the example here is adding gift cards to the website. You can see that you can link and create a change request right here from Confluence. There's a lot of, you can capture all the information right here. You can have your change plan right here created. You can have your pre-install plan, your install plan, and then your post-install checklist. You can show all the change implementation tasks that are going to be necessary and the potential impact to the team and the description of those impacts. You can see the outage impact, problems, things like that, and times when systems might be down. And then you can show your communications listing here. Hey, we need to call, the escalation manager at this time. Here's his phone number in case something happens. You can have the post-implementation, the PIR review, basically showing was it successful? Were there any problems? Was there any impact to our system? What did we learn from this? And then are there any follow-up actions? And so this is an out-of-the-box template, change template that we highly recommend you guys utilize because it's a great way to track all of that change information. Okay, so that's the manual change process. It's there, it exists, it's out of the box, it's pretty cool, but it's not great. It's not the ideal situation. So now we're going to talk about a standard change without any gated deployment. So for this case, we're going to start out in a Scrum project with a developer, right? So let's say in this case, we created a story, and this story is add euro to our payroll currency availability, okay? And so in this case, this is, was submitted as worked on by a developer. We can even say, okay, this is assigned to me to work on. The next step is going to be going ahead and making this change and making this commit in the repository itself. So we're going to jump into the repository. We're going to jump into our demo, our payroll repository here. And now this is a tier 2 service, and so it's not going to require an approval. So we can come in here, we can go to this README, and we're going to make an edit to the README. Okay. So in real life, our change is going to be a lot more significant in this, but we're just going to use this change to the README as our example. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this excess text here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit commit. And so in here, I'm going to reference that Scrum ticket we had created, and this is SSP-37. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here, SSP-37, and I'm going to go ahead and hit commit. Okay. And so now one cool thing you're going to see, and this is a function that's been here for a while, this isn't necessarily new functionality right here, is that this will automatically reference that ticket and provide a link back to that ticket, which is pretty neat. And further, when we go back to that ticket, if we refresh the page, we will see that on the right side that there is now a commit associated with our ticket, and we can link directly to that commit. Okay. Now, real quick, I'm going to go ahead and check and see on our pipeline. We'll be able to see that, hey, this thing's being built and deployed. And so this is currently in progress. So if I open this up, I can see the progress. I can see, okay, we're in the build phase, and it's rolling through that function. So it's going to take a second to get through this. So we should play some elevator music or something. All right, so it's built and now it's deploying, and you'll notice it's running through without any stops. There's no gates here. This is what would be considered a standard change. So it's not going to require any approvals. So once this thing deploys, we'll give it a second here. There it goes. It's building, deploying, boom, it's done. Okay. So what I want to show here is, if I jump out here to the closed changes section, we can see deployment 19 that just happened. And we can see that it went all the way through to closed. And so what happened here is it submitted a change request, but automation for Jira looked at that change request and said, okay, it's for a tier 2 service and it's a standard change. So we are automatically going to approve this thing and move it into implementation. Okay. And it's going to go all the way through to completed. It got deployed. And so once it got deployed, it kicked back to the change request and said, hey, this thing got deployed. It is now complete. And all of that happened without anybody having to touch it because we automated that process. Okay. And so that's a standard change, which does not require an approval without any gated deployment. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. So it's pretty neat. It's a lot faster. It saves you. I mean, imagine the amount of time that can be saved on your teams with this type of automated process. It's pretty neat. Okay. So that's going to be without any gated deployment because that's a standard change. The next thing we're going to look at is a normal change. And this one's going to look a little bit different. And so for this one, we're going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and go into our mobile app repo. Well, the mobile app is a tier 1 service. Okay. And so so on this one, we have gated deployments implemented. So we're going to come out here to the README and we're going to do a very similar change. Of course, your change is probably going to be a lot different, maybe more substantial if it was real life. We're going to go ahead and remove that excess text. We're going to go ahead and hit commit. And we're going to go ahead and just commit this one since we don't have a story to link it to. Okay. Though we could do that same linking functionality. So now this has been committed. We're going to go over to our pipeline. And we're going to take a look at this. We're going to say, okay, this deployment is now in process. So we're going to jump in here and take a look. All right, so it is in the build phase, and we'll wait for a second here. And we can see if we go back to our open change queue and refresh. We'll give it a second. Come on, still working on building. Again, cue the elevator music. There we go. So now we're building. It's queued up, and we're going to see, boom, it stopped. Okay. That's because this requires an approval. So there's a change request pending, and that change request got automatically created. So we go into our open changes here. As the agent in this queue, we're going to see, here we go, deployment 12 for the mobile app, branch to being pushed to production. And we're going to see that it automatically requires an approval, and it automatically went out and got all the approvals on the cab for this particular service and added them as approvers. You can see that it's automatically linked to our mobile app service, and we can see that this service is a tier 1 service. We can see that it automatically calculated the change risk to critical because this is, again, a tier 1 service, and the change type is normal. So we're going to evaluate this change. We're going to look at this. We're going to investigate it as a team, and when we're ready to, we can go ahead and approve this. Like, hey, this is going to be just fine. We know we're good to go. We'll go ahead and approve this request, and you're going to see that this gets moved into awaiting implementation. Once we're ready to implement, we can go here and we can say, okay, we're ready to implement. We're going to move this into implementing. Now, when we do that, that's going to trigger our deployment pipeline again. So we're going to come here. We'll give this just a second to kick on. It'll move automatically here in a second. I could refresh, but it should auto refresh and begin that deployment into implementing. Boom, automatically triggered that deployment because it got approved and moved into implementing. And so now it's deploying that change. It's queued up for deployment. It's pulling it, and it is almost done. Again, cue the elevator music. But all this is happening from an organizational perspective very quickly and automatically, which is great because you have the deployment team that never left their repository to make the request, and you have the agents that never left their queue to approve it and complete it, okay? So boom, this has now been deployed automatically. If we jump back to our deployment ticket, make sure we're on a deployment ticket. Oh, and it's now closed. I got to go to the closed section to go find it here. So the Expium demo mobile app, it's now automatically moved to completed. So as soon as the repo says, hey, this thing's done, it sends back to Automation for Jira and says, hey, this ticket can be moved to completed automatically. So it's automatically dropping out of our agents open changes queue, which is awesome. So that's our last demo, and that kind of wraps up our last item there. So I know some folks don't necessarily want to stick around for Q&A, so I just want to wrap this up and say, you know, that's been our kind of our ITSM webinar. We talked about those 3 demos: service management with object management. We talked about incident management using Opsgenie and the major incident creation functions. And we talked about our change enablement processes. And this change enablement process is huge. It allows your agents and your change approvers to stay over here in the queue, and it allows your development teams to submit those commits and have those change requests committed and created automatically with automatic risk assessment and an awesome workflow for change enablement. So a lot of cool stuff there. So I want to go ahead and shift over here to some Q&A. So jump back here. One thing I do want to mention before I touch on Q&A, just for those of you that may want to drop off, we've got a lot of upcoming webinars and classes. And so you can see that today was this service management ITSM class. We have a ton of free webinars coming up, but we also have a Jira Bootcamp, which is a 3-day intensive course mid-May. And then even better, we have a new class that's come out here recently, which is this Jira Service Management Bootcamp. And it is a bootcamp designed specifically for the Jira Service Management administrator and configuration therein. And in that bootcamp, you learn to configure almost all of what we talked about here in this webinar. So it's really cool bootcamp. I encourage you guys to sign up. You can find that at expium.com, which is our company website. Okay. You can also connect with me through email or through LinkedIn with that QR code. Please feel free to reach out if you guys need further help or have any questions. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to Q&A now. Let me see. Q&A looks like we've got a question here. I'm going to go ahead and answer this one live. Can Service Desk be set up so that requests are made from the agents and not be customer facing? Absolutely. This would include setting assignee while the agent is making the request. Oh, things like that, like having the assignee field visible. Absolutely, we can create tickets from the portal as agents. And in fact, we encourage agents to do it that way if they get a phone call or an email or something like that. If you don't want the project to be customer facing, you can absolutely set it up to be internal only, and you can control the customers that have access through that customer's menu. So if I jump back to, let's say our service project here, we can go in here to the project settings, and we can go to our customer permissions, and we can set this to customers added by agents and admins, and you can just have your agents have access to that portal. So as an agent, I would come in here to either Channels Help Center, or you can actually have a raise a request button right here, and you can jump into the portal like we were, submit tickets there. It allows you to control the forms really well and really cleanly, and you can set those up that way. So absolutely, yeah, that's really common to have internal only, and then eventually decide to open that up to your customers. Absolutely. Cool. All right. If there's any other questions you guys may have, you guys should see some links in the chat for our YouTube channel, for our Jira Service Management Bootcamp, and then for our regular Jira Bootcamp if you guys are kind of combo users of both products, Jira software and Jira Service Management. And please feel free to check that out and come to any future webinars that you may be interested in. Thank you guys for attending. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up our webinar. Thank you guys and have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend.